The dirty truth about building cars. And there it is. So we ran the video yesterday about the Junkyard Jet guys and them working on the Valiant. And there were many people in the comments that were like, why are you wasting your time? It's only going to be 2 pounds. Well, actually it comes to like 30 or 40 pounds. It's only going to be like 2 pounds of undercoating. Build other stuff. And you guys are missing the point entirely. But before I even go there was another set of comments that were like, why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it with the propane torch and a scraper? Just for the record, I've been cleaning undercoating off of cars for the last 45 years, I don't even know. And I've tried every method under the sun. And the one that has the least amount of follow-up work tends to be with the propane. It just takes off all different types, because there are different types of undercoating. It just takes all different types, all different depths, all different consistencies and ages, and it does it pretty uniformly. So that's why I tend to fall back on that. But yeah, there are times when you use dry ice, when you use a wire wheel, I get it. But to get the big stuff off, that seems to be the most efficient way. But let's talk about why, right? Beyond just the performance end of things. So, go inside. The exercise on the Junkyard Jet car with these guys is they're newcomers. They've never built any type of car before. They have cars, they love cars, they want to get involved in the whole thing. But they've never built anything before. And building is different than modifying. So building means you're taking a car and you're going to blank slate it as much as you can and install the parts and the ideology that you want to get the results that you're looking for. So, not telling them how to build the car, but just mentoring them, right? Trying to give them guidance. That's what I do. And I told them, I stressed to them at the very beginning that one of the things you have to do is get the underneath of this car and all of the nooks and crannies as clean and as virgin and as brightly painted as possible. And they didn't really understand it. And I think maybe they probably don't understand it, but they will at some point in the future. But why do I stress this so much? Why is it so important? So I have to ask you a question. Have you ever seen a professionally built car? With the exception of like a Dead Nuts factory restoration where it has factory undercoating. But have you ever seen a street rod, a street machine, a road race car, a drag car, a show car, anything like that, a custom car? Have you ever seen a professionally built car that had any sort of undercoating on it? And the answer is of course not. Because when you professionally build a car, the very first thing you do is clean everything. Paint or plate or treat, however you're going to do it, everything. And then you start to build. It's a foundation. Building cars is an art, as much of an art as it is a science. And when you're starting out, like these guys are, you don't have a foundation of knowledge. You don't know how to pick a cam. You don't know how to do any of the things that they're going to learn as they go along. That knowledge takes time, and it takes experience, and it takes patient tutors. It takes a lot of things to build a person's foundation of knowledge and experience before they're really proficient at what they do. They don't really have control over that. That takes time. But if you're building a car, if you're building your first car, what do you have control over? What doesn't cost any money? What doesn't take any experience? What doesn't take any expertise? What doesn't take any special parts? Cleaning the car, right? Trying to make it as professional as possible. Even if you're the most rank amateur that ever lived, you know nothing about cars, but you're going to try to approach this project, you're going to try to tackle this project. The very first thing to do is what you can do without anything else. And that is cleaning the bottom of the car. And actually, it should extend to all parts of the car. Like, for instance, why do we paint the inside of engines like I did with this one here? Why? I mean, there are several reasons. The most important of which is that as you're working on this engine, this is going to be a race engine, so as I'm working on this engine, I can take off the heads, the intake manifold, whatever it is, and at a glance tell what's going on inside the motor. I can see if there's metal flakes here or there. I can see if there's dirt or a buildup or anything weird. I'll be able to spot it right away on this painted surface. The painted surface is easier to clean. It fills in the pores of the metal. It's an extra step, but it's like a professional step. It adds that little bit extra, it's an extra thought, you know, it's an extra little bit of detail that makes the difference in the long run. Do you do this to all engines? No, of course not. If I'm building an engine that's just going to be a street driver, no, I'm not going to bother with that. That's crazy, because the idea is this thing's going to go together and it's going to stay together. And you know, if anything goes wrong with it, there's going to be like it's going to be catastrophic failure, in which case it doesn't matter if you can spot a little speck of this or a little speck of that. So on a street engine that's just going to go, no, I don't bother with that. That's ridiculous. But on an engine that's a special use, a racing engine or anything like that, the very first thing I do is clean the block and then paint it. So this way it stays like that. And also, you know, it's a rust preventative. You stick this thing on the side, you don't use it for a year or two. Doesn't matter, moisture can get to it. You can rehome the cylinders, clean up the decks, but the rest of it stays rust free. That's why we do that. And look how nice it is. You know, that paint makes that engine a happy place to work. You're building a specialty engine. Here's the broken rocker arm from Bottle Rocket. I should have tossed this, but for some reason it's laying around the shop here. It looks like a brand new piece, doesn't it? You know, it's not. This was one of the original rockers that was on the engine. Look at how clean this thing is. Let's I mean, really look at the details of this. Okay. Now, even though that engine is built entirely out of junk and throwaway parts, that's the condition of every single part inside that engine. The bottom of the pistons look like that. They're used pistons. The connecting rods look like that. The oil galleys look like that. Every bit of the inside of that engine looks exactly like that. Why would I do that if it's just a throwaway engine? Because it's a high-performance engine. Even though it's throwaway, it's built out of low-performance parts. It's intended to do a high-performance thing. So it needs to be treated with the same discipline as a Formula One engine in my mind, right? Now, if it was just going to be a street driver, drive down the road, quickie scuff, you know, just quickie clean up, throw it, you know, make sure there's nothing loose and it's going to flake off of it, no crud built up, throw it together and go. But if you're building something for high performance use, for that custom application, no, that's the level that you need to shoot for, even if you're dealing with throwaway junk. It's the discipline. It's the art of it, and it's the foundation from which a newcomer can build their skills and their knowledge. You don't have to know how to build an engine or pick a cam or jet a carburetor or do any of those things. You'll learn those things as you go along. You don't have to buy expensive parts or exotic parts. You'll save up for those things, or you'll wheel and deal and you'll get those things. They're kind of out of your immediate control. But what is within your immediate control is to make the device you're working on as clean and as sanitary as it can possibly be. And that is the foundation of what we do as artists, as you know, the hot rod art, the high performance art. Clean. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how important it is. So that's why I've got them out there doing that to this car. And that's my overall, you know, mentality for doing anything. I go to the point, like, if I'm working on, let's say I'm working on Plan Z right now, in between, I'll finish one phase of it, then I'll stop and I'll take all of the tools, even if I'm going to use them again. I'll take all the tools, I'll clean them up, and I'll put them away, right? Just so that we start fresh, you know what I mean? No clutter, right? No clutter means you have a clear head, you can focus on exactly what's there. Clutter is a big thing. Clutter will mess you up. It'll mess you up in a shop, it'll mess you up on a car, it'll mess you up on any job. Because clutter confuses the mind. So you want to make things as clean as possible and as organized as possible, and it allows you to think clearly. You know, really super important stuff. But it's like the basics nobody ever talks about. Again, have you ever seen a professionally built car that had any sort of undercoating or anything like that underneath it? And the answer is, of course not. So if you've got 3 guys that are wanting to learn how to build cars, wouldn't that be the first thing that you put in their heads? That's what made sense to me. That's it. I hope you got something out of that. I'll see you tomorrow.